Hi there, I'm Greg Sanders, Vice President of Editorial for the WTWH Media Retail, Hospitality, and Food Service Network. And I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar on how restaurant brands can master guest engagement. So restaurant marketers know they need loyalty programs, and they also know they need to get the most out of their data, control their own online ordering platform, own the CRM process, and leverage a mobile app. But how do you make all those work together to go beyond the parts and create a much stronger whole? And also, how do you make all these pieces work together to execute a true digital engagement strategy that meets guests where they are as individuals? These are some of the questions we'll explore today. So a few housekeeping notes before we get started. First, a recording of this session will be linked at qsrmagazine.com, and you can also use today's login link for on-demand viewing. Second, slides for today's program are available for download using the resources widget on the webinar console. And finally, we'll be answering audience questions at the end of the program, but please do feel free to submit a question at any time. So now to begin, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan DeLillo from Paytronix to get us started. Ryan, welcome.
Thanks so much, and hello everyone. Welcome again to this afternoon's webinar. I'm a content specialist for Paytronix. I'm going to be sort of lurking in the background of this presentation, and I'm so excited to be bringing you this wonderful panel of people. Chris Schefler for Mr. Pickles, Tim Ridgely from Paytronix, and Renae Scott from Yogurt Mill and formerly X11 Sandwiches. I will just let them go around and introduce themselves, beginning with Tim.
All right, thanks, Ryan. Hi, everyone. I'm Tim Ridgely. I'm the Vice President of Online Ordering here at Paytronix. Previously, I was the founder and CEO at Open Dining, an online ordering company that we started back in 2009, and then we merged with Paytronix in 2019. Renae, you want to take next?
Sure. My name's Renae Scott, formerly of X11 Sandwiches for about 5 years. In my last 3 brands, I have built the marketing technology stack from evaluation through deployment. And I've spent 20 years in the restaurant industry, from burgers to pizza and yogurt. So that's me.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Schefler. I'm with Mr. Pickles Sandwich Shop. I've been in the restaurant industry for over 25 years now. With Carl's Jr., I'm a franchisee, and then with Mr. Pickles now for about 2.5 years. And just excited to chat with everyone on our tech stack and how things go going forward.
Brilliant. So I'm going to be handing the reins over to Tim Ridgely very soon, but I just want to sort of set the scene for this presentation. Digital guest engagement has really formalized in the past few years, catalyzed by the pandemic. And these are just some headlines that I snipped kind of in the midst and heading into the pandemic and then coming out of it, to really demonstrate that the pandemic was a parting knife for a lot of restaurants. Those who were able to adapt to the increased focus on the off-premises experience survived and even thrived. But we lost a lot of restaurants that weren't able to adapt either. So coming out of the pandemic, we're faced with this new concept of digital customer guest engagement. It's a process that involves all these things that I think are familiar to most of you in the audience. But the whole strategy around it really revolves around aligning all of these components to create a more seamless and consistent guest experience. And that's why we have Chris and Renae here to talk about how they were able to adapt their brands to develop a digital customer engagement strategy, and some of the lessons that they learned along the way. So just a brief overview of today's agenda. As we just looked at sort of defining what guest engagement is and setting the scene. And then we're going to follow a narrative arc that begins prior to the pandemic, heading in, taking stock of the tech stacks at Ike's and Mr. Pickles, looking at what the change management process was, how those two brands were able to adopt and put the right tech in place. And then finally, sort of focusing on what the benefits were of choosing a single platform solution versus a best of breed. You may be familiar with Frankenstack solution. And then we'll conclude by looking at how this all impacted the guest experience as a whole. So without further ado, I'd like to toss things over to Tim.
All right. Thanks, Ryan. So the pandemic was an inflection point for many, many things in life, right? So this including guest engagement tech, right? So let's go take me all the way back to the start of the pandemic. And Chris and Renae, can we talk about what your tech stacks were like then and bring us through your journey forward to today?
Yeah, I'll jump in. At Ike's, we were just moving from kind of a startup vibe all the way to a full corporate structure. So we were in the midst of that when the pandemic hit. Mine Tools were an old school email platform and an online ordering platform that I think was built in the 90s. I think it was sometime during the first Obama administration. So functional, it was not. We survived by being really creative and on brand with some promotions, but again, it was a challenge, and it really accelerated our move into developing a fully functional marketing stack.
Yeah, for us, I guess the best answer is what tech stack, right? So it was a situation where a lot of us had, to hit the gas hard when the pandemic started hitting, right? So we were fortunate that our director of technology had partnered with Brink way back in 2009. So at minimum, we had a cloud POS based POS system in place. And that really was what drove every decision we could make going forward. But really that's where we sat. And when the pandemic hit, it was like, we just needed to move quickly to engage in other directions, whether it be third party, online. We had some of that in place, but it became very clear very quickly how important those pieces were.
Sure. Did either of you have any major goals at that point to grow your guest engagement?
Yeah, I mean, we had the plan already in place, and I think I just play off of what Chris said about the importance of a really fully functioning POS system, right? That's the base you're going to build any marketing technology upon. So if you're lucky enough, like Chris was, to have a POS-based, cloud-based POS system, great. We were not in that situation. We knew we had a suboptimal POS system. And so I was not going to complicate things by pulling a bunch of different integrations together. So I had already been, and we at Ike's had already been talking to about a one-stop holistic solution. We were already working with Paytronix, but it certainly accelerated our dive into the Paytronix system when the COVID pandemic hit.
Yeah, so for us, I mean, we had taken the leap again with the POS system. We had understood, our director of technology understood very early on that we needed to make some moves in that direction. So we were adding loyalty, we were adding online ordering, we were doing things of that nature, and we had goals to grow that. We did not realize at the time, though, that how important those goals would all of a sudden become. So that was really what just made it push quickly. But yeah, we wanted to engage with guests. We wanted to give them a reason to come back. We wanted to create a nice loyalty program, and we were able to do those things. And then we just had to transition further as things went along.
Sure. So when you think about guest engagement, there are a lot of pieces and parts, right? A lot of different boxes that you can check along the way. And when you think about bringing all those things into your stack, how do you think about picking vendors, right? Do you think best of breed for each one, or do you think of a unified approach? And could you walk us through how you approach that decision? And Renae, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. And I kind of tipped it a little bit early on, but I think my initial, I was gravitating initially towards best in class, right? You hear and work with these companies throughout your career and you have some exposure to them. But I do think you have to look at what your current situation is. And at several of my past brands, again, we had a challenge with the POS as the basis. And for me, adding Frankensteining, or what you call it, Frankenstacking. I love that. Frankenstacking a system together meant added resources. We all know what happens with perfect integrations. They're seldom perfect. And so for me to have the visibility that I might be creating a Frankenstack with 3 different individual partners and needing 3 internal resources to manage those, it just wasn't viable. And so across many brands, I've looked at it and really aligned around this holistic approach where you have an integrated loyalty, online ordering, the ability to email and text to reach your guests. That to me was just key, especially when you're resource strained. So that's how I made the decision.
And for us, what we went through, we knew we needed to make some changes in some places that we had, and we did. We looked at all of these best in breeds, and it's great, and you hear all of these great companies, all these great things they do. But what we realized very quickly is that we're a smallish, growing company with a very light management structure. So there was 8 of us in the office. So we realized that we needed it to be easier for us, but we also wanted to make things as simple and easy as possible for our franchisees. So when we were able to look at it versus all these individual pieces that would need to work together, that again, seldom do, if you can go to an all-in-one solution, it just makes it much easier for our team to manage it, but it also gives the franchisees some clarity in what they bought into, what they're doing, and how they approach it, and how they know where their money is going. You have one bill instead of 3, 4, 5, 6 different bills. So it just makes it easier for not only us but our franchisees.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Sure. And we see the same thing even within our tech platform, where when we need a new thing, we look at our existing providers and say, hey, can Amazon Web Services do this for us? Can the Azure Cloud already do this thing? Rather than having to plug in a new thing and fit that into our stack and trying to minimize that kind of tech sprawl, Cool. Yeah. Well, so after you chose to revamp your guest engagement solutions, you had to align your resources and your operations to get ready to launch all of this stuff. I want to talk through that process with you. Renae, you might have a broader answer here, but I know we spoke about how important it was to leverage outside resources and support from vendors. What was that like for you?
A challenge, again, small growing company, very similar to Chris's experience, a team of 3 folks in marketing and technology. So we didn't hire internally for the expert when we onboarded with the holistic Paytronix platform. One thing I found super valuable was, and I equate it to, you get this holistic platform where you can manage your email, online ordering, loyalty. It's fantastic, but you get into the driver's seat and somebody just tosses you keys. That's a recipe for not fully utilizing a tool, an amazing tool. So a couple things that I leverage. Number one, experts at your platform providers. So Paytronix has a group, strategy and analytics, used to be data analytics. And I found them extremely helpful in sitting side by side with your marketing team, maybe a team of 1, maybe even yourself, and really showing you the roadmap and giving you directions so that you're not driving that car blindly around. So I thought that was invaluable. They are able to also share across clients. So the team at strategy and analytics has visibility across all the clients at Paytronix. So somebody might have learned something last week that applies to what I'm doing today. Super helpful. I would say a second option would be a third-party vendor. I've worked with groups like 5 and 5 and others that also hire their own group of experts in all the specific platforms, and they can be a great service and support if you don't have a big marketing technology group in your own company. And then of course third is hiring your own expert, and that takes a lot of G&A. So to me, those are your 3 options to support your new platform.
And Chris, well, how about you? You mentioned starting a strong foundation with that, cloud POS with Brink. How did that work for Mr. Pickles?
So when we made the decision to move, we moved essentially 3 vendors over to one vendor. We knew that that was going to present some challenges, again, for us and our franchisees. What was nice is we took it slowly. We did a 3 to 4 month implementation with our operations teams on board, with our technology teams on board, and we were able to push this out and make sure that we did it from a corporate level first. So we make sure that everything's working as it should. We spent about a good 30 days of making sure that the new gift cards were working, the online ordering was working before we ever pushed it out to the franchisees. But what was really important is the operations team had to be on board and understanding, and they were, which was very, very nice. But what was also the best part of it, with it being so integrated with our current solution in Brink, there really was very little operational change at the store level. So once we were going through our implementation, we realized that it was going to be much easier to get this out to the field quickly and have a successful launch, which is exactly how it turned out to be.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. And having operations on board and engaged is so important at that stage, right? You want to share
Absolutely.
the love, and so you need the people on the ground to do that too.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, that's a great add-on, Tim. I think, and I neglected to mention the ops partners at my past brands, and really having boots on the ground operations services person as part of the team, critical when you're looking at launching a holistic platform.
All right. Let's look at some of these single platform benefits through a few different lenses. So we can start with online ordering. And I think one of the big things is thinking about the first party owned channels, right? So your web and your mobile app properties against the third party marketplaces, the DoorDashes and Ubers and Grubhubs of the world, right? How do you think about balancing those things and potentially converting guests from one channel to the other?
Chris, you want to go first?
Sure, I'll take that. So we've understood very early on that the third party ordering, it's a necessary evil. I mean, we do talk about, there's potentially fees and things of that nature that we're trying to get away from. So balancing the first and the third is very important, and going with the single solution for online made that much easier. So first of all, we're able to ensure that the guest experience is the same across whatever platform they choose. So if we were to put some strategies in place to convert them, they come to us, they have the same experience. There's no loss there for the guest. That's really what it comes down to. Most importantly is that the guest is able to get through their situation faster. That was one of the things that we saw as a benefit right out of the gate. Is we had a lot of additional sales from our first party channel just because it was so much easier for the guest to get through the experience. But then the fact that it all pushed out and it was all exactly the same across the platforms just made it very easy to market and try to bring some people over to our own channels and make it more cost effective, not only for us, but for the guest.
Yeah, I agree with everything Chris said, and I would add on. I think most of us have come to realize that our third-party partners are just part of another sales channel. I saw at some past brands, sales, digital sales doubling, tripling pre-pandemic to today. And a big piece of that is third-party partners. And, as we work through with them this issue of 25% fees, they do have a wealth of data, and I found them being even more forthcoming in helping provide that. So I would say I'm looking now at third party just as another sales channel. That being said, we know our own channels are more profitable, right? So back to your question, Tim, I think around do we have conversion strategies? I would just offer a couple ideas. One would be if you have a vast menu, which I've been had the benefit of in the past, it's an interesting strategy to offer your most popular sandwiches only through your own channel. Not to say that you're taking important items off the menu with third party, but if you could only get some great new products, LTOs, through the owned channel of the brand, that would be an interesting way to convert folks over. Another idea would be when you're opening new stores, and both Chris and I have been in that situation where you're opening new stores twice a month, and it's like drinking out of a fire hose sometime. One strategy is start your online ordering only with your owned channel through your own app. The only way you could get online ordering and delivery would be through your owned app or web. Is that a little, I don't know, if you're scampering for sales, you may not want to do that. You may want those third-party sales. But if you've got the benefit of a strong opening, I'd say go ahead and just only turn on your own app for ordering and delivery. It trains your guests to go to you first. Just a couple ideas.
Oh, I love that, especially when you have the opening pop, right? And so you can just get all that to the first party channel, and then if you need to supplement that, you can use the third party channels as supplementary sales.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I think, Renae, you probably have something here. How is the platform giving you visibility into your operations?
Yeah, again, operations partnership when you're launching this is, like I said, critical. And, we're all learning together. So I've seen that the dashboard within the holistic platform gives you so much data, both from a marketing standpoint, but really from an operations standpoint. And you could really see some of the opportunities that you have, whether it's restaurant specific, where you see average ticket lower at one restaurant than another, or even when you have visibility about online ordering systems being throttled. And look, we know that at the restaurant on any given day, a restaurant's getting hit for a variety of reasons. They may be understaffed. They may have a huge catering order. They may just have a busload of folks being dropped off. And to have the visibility to see at a higher level when your restaurant managers are turning on and off online ordering is extremely valuable. Not to be the stick, but more to solve for that problem. So number one, you want to recapture those sales and put in place a protocol of when restaurants can throttle online ordering. But after that, why were they doing it? Again, were they understaffed? Did they get call outs? Are they having trouble hiring? And so getting that operations visibility going down and then helping solve the root problem makes your employees happier and will increase your sales because your online ordering system will be on.
Absolutely.
I love that. The idea of just using the tools and the information you have to solve problems at a lower level, because they're real problems, right?
Yeah.
And then you can be more effective as an organization.
That's right.
So what does your management, your interaction with these third parties look like now? Like, how do you think about that kind of ecosystem fitting for you?
I'll just jump in because I kind of already answered it. I really am looking at it more as another sales channel, a partnership. It's one that costs us money and erodes profitability, but there's a ton of data there, and the partnership I feel is here to stay. So I'll turn it over to Chris since I already kind of answered that one.
Yeah, and on the management side of it, it's been much better. We do treat it as a sales channel, so we do want to make sure that it's managed appropriately. So this solution has helped us. Again, our experience is the same now, so we have one menu instead of 4 different menus in our POS system to manage, or a third-party aggregator that we need to go and change every time we push out a new price or product. Now we have one place that we push it, we push in our POS, it goes out to our first party and our third party channels, all seamlessly, all, real time. So we don't have to worry about, did this item get to our third party or did it get to our first party? Did this price change? Did that price change? Did this modifier, anything that we make a change in at our POS level now goes out to our entire system online, which makes management of the tools so much simpler.
Great point. Yeah. Love it.
All right. Let's pivot and talk about the loyalty piece of a single platform here with guest engagement. I think there's a big change, right, with what guests expect today. And you guys probably have thoughts on that, right? Renae, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about this when we were talking about this last week, but most of us have experienced what I have in the last couple of weeks, where I mentioned a specific pair of boots to a girlfriend at lunch a week ago, and that those boots have been stalking me now across every platform I'm on the internet. So it's happened to all of us, right? Digital marketing, Amazon suggesting exactly what we need at the right time. It's really raised the expectations of guests. They expect you as a brand to know what they want when they want it. And without the data that you can get through a holistic platform, that's really, really tough to do. And I'll give you a quick example. Ike's Sandwiches was early entry into the vegan and vegetarian menu, creating a menu from scratch, not as an afterthought. So we had a passionate, loyal group of vegans and vegetarians. You better know I should not be sending them a big meaty sandwich in their inbox. These are people that are very focused on their diet, and the ability to understand what they eat, how frequently they eat it. It's hugely valuable, and it's meeting consumer expectations right now.
And I'll jump in there and I'll add, what we found out real early on is, we had a loyalty program that was very basic. You spent $100, you got $10 off. So we didn't really have any visibility on what guests really wanted. When we switched over to this loyalty program, we realized that there are some guests that like the ability of choosing something else at a lower value and just being able to get a side item or a chip or a drink or something. But really early on, we found out a lot of our guests did not want to interact with an app or a web. They just wanted their points to accrue, and they wanted their free stuff at the end of it. So we realized that there was just such a larger segment of people out there that just, they don't do the same thing. They want to have choices, and segmenting and seeing that data really allowed us to talk to those individuals one-on-one.
Absolutely. And I have a few things on this one, right? So if we look at your guests, right, Chris, specifically about a quarter of your guests, about 25%, they're highly day week dependent, right? These are people that are like every Tuesday or every Wednesday. That's their day, right? And another quarter or so are day of week adjacent. So they maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that kind of thing, right? And then the rest are kind of all over the place. But these segments you can really key on, right? And if you speak to them on the day that they expect to engage with you, they're 68% more likely to visit, not just to open an email or engage with the message, but to visit your store and engage with you. That's amazing, right?
Yeah, it truly is. It's nice to be able to see that too, right? So we know that we can talk to that person on that given time frame, right? Meet them where they're at.
Yeah, I was going to add on to Tim what you said too is, there's also programs that you can activate, like one-to-one programming. So if you knew that person was a Monday day of the week person and they miss a Monday, they're already a lapsed user, right? In the old days, we would have said, well, they come once a week, and it would take several weeks for you to recognize them as a lapsed user. But I think through the platform, you can really get down to segmentation and one-on-one marketing.
Absolutely. And even just knowing that our frequencies are different, right? That maybe I'm a once a week and you might be once a month or once every 2 months and that kind of thing. And I used to help work with marketers, and they would send campaigns to their entire base saying, here's a promo, and they would obviously get a big pop, and they would be thrilled at the results. And it's like, hold on now. And then you would start looking at the redemptions, and if you started comparing the redemptions of that promo against people's behaviors, what you find is you cannibalize a ton of your own sales. You're like, well, you gave people a promo that they were going to use, they were going to come in anyway. You already had that business, and you just discounted the business you already had in hand. You didn't really change the behavior that much because you weren't dicing the segmentation up enough, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you just discounted your whole, customer base for that week or for whatever the amount of the expiration, for sure.
And your veggie thing is spot on, right? Because we were looking at it, it's like that person that wants a veggie sandwich, they're twice as likely to come in when you show them a veggie sandwich, right?
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
Matters.
And what are they doing when I show them a meat sandwich, right? They're like, you don't know me, see you later. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, fantastic. Let's see. Let's talk a little bit, I guess, on the unhappy path, right, about CRM. One of the challenges, right, with the digital strategy is keeping clients happy at distance, right? And I want to talk a little bit about our survey tool and how that's been helpful. And Chris, I think you have some stories around this, right?
Yeah, so we found out very early on when we partnered with Paytronix that we were getting feedback that we weren't able to see prior. What we really love about it too is it's a loyalty, it's a feedback based on an order that actually took place, right? So it's not a Yelp review, it's not a Google, like who knows if somebody went in, right? This is actually tied to an order. So it's actionable feedback that we're getting from our guests. But what we realized real quick, and I kind of took this on myself in the beginning, was responding to some of these guests, to try to turn them, to get them back. And what was really eye-opening is the amount of responses I got that were, wow, I didn't expect anybody to actually talk to me. I didn't expect anybody to actually respond. So we realized that is something that we have to continue to do. When Paytronix launched the auto feedback function, that just made that process much easier to use. AI specific to an order, and sometimes we give a discount or a coupon, and sometimes we don't. But the AI helps us write that email without having to spend. It can cut a response from 5 minutes to 30 seconds. So it allows us to touch more guests more often, and really just turn them around, right? To recover them. Guest recovery is huge in our business. And if you don't recover a guest, they're gone. So you have to have the tools in place to get those customers to come back and give you another chance.
We were really excited at Paytronix when we got early access to, now you've seen ChatGPT and everywhere, right? But we got early access to those foundational models. And that was one of the first things we saw was, wow, if we put this in our guest survey tool and gave this to store managers so that it could write the responses for them. You just say, hey, I want to give this guest a coupon, free delivery, and I want to send an apology. And you click a button and it writes you a fantastic message. It triples the amount of feedback people can respond to, and it's all personalized, right? So we're super thrilled to bring that and have you guys using it. Renae, do you have any thoughts on the feedback bit?
Oh yeah, no, I was just thinking how important it is, and it's something Chris said of responding to reviews, and we know there's stats around review response as well in terms of recapturing guests and turning bad reviews around. My team has been responsible for guest response with a goal of 100% response to any reviews or comments. That seems huge and maybe impossible, but it's really not. And it comes with exactly what Tim said, is really leveraging some of these tools that we have now to automate yet customize responses to our guests. So I agree 100%. It's a key part of the platform.
Anecdotally, it's my favorite feature outside of the core ordering stack. It's my favorite thing that we have. And I love it because when you respond to someone's feedback, it's wild. There's just so many success metrics along with this thing, right? They come in, they spend 29% more in the next 90 days, right away. And what's wild is that they do that even if they're mad at you. Even
Yeah.
if they've just given you like scathing feedback, they still come in and spend more as long as you respond.
Right.
They love being
Yeah.
engaged with, on the whole, right?
Yep.
Well, again, it goes back to how valuable those people who are complaining really are, right? They're so much more valuable than somebody who just talks with their feet and you never see them again. These people are taking the time to tell you what you could do better. So we should be listening.
Yes.
Especially when
100%.
between, these are tens of thousands of these things, right? Like between your brands, these aren't one or two. So moving the needle, it's pretty important there.
Yeah.
These aren't marginal things. These are significant things. Well, let's look at kind of an indirect benefit, right? Maybe not one of the core thrusts you're going for here, but I think one of the key things one of the great things we've seen is supporting your staff, right? And how has this helped you manage through and support your staff?
Well, I'll jump in. I mean, I think we've all seen and felt a cultural shift since the pandemic. It may have been coming regardless, but this generation of our crew members really are valuing quality of life in an accelerated way. We've all felt it. They want to work, but they want to have their time as well. And so anything we can do to make their lives easier is going to help with retention and help with performance. I think we'd all agree, certainly in the restaurant business, you never want to be the hardest job on the street, right? So you'll see a gravitational pull away from those jobs that are stressful, complicated. Our employees really want to come in. They want us to utilize technology to make their lives easier. So whether it's eliminating the octopus of iPads that we all lived with for so long, or giving managers visibility to large orders coming in so that they can staff up versus having one or two employees crank out 200 sandwiches. I mean, all of those things are helping share the love with our crew members.
Yeah, absolutely. To touch on Renee's point there, it really came down to, for the staff at the restaurant level, it was tablets, right? We had tablets everywhere, right? We got our first party channels, which would go into the POS, but then we'd have these tablets. And so then we tried to bring in a partner that would inject into the POS, but that was still another point of failure that could happen and had to be managed. So now that we have the single solution, it all runs into the POS seamlessly, automatically. And it just, at the restaurant level, that just makes it so much easier for things to get done and ultimately for the guest to be happy, because the more failure points you have in place, the more opportunity you have to make a guest unhappy.
Absolutely. And I think you have some points on catering here as well.
Yeah, I know for us, with catering, we made the decision really early on that we wanted catering to be more of a first party channel for us. So the ease of being able to turn that off of the third parties and bring that customer into our own channels was huge for us. We can see them, we can see those orders better, we can manage them out with timing strategies better, and that part, because catering is a huge piece of our business, and now that we have delivery through our first party channel, we're supplying catering to a lot of office buildings that get their lunches delivered to them, but it's scheduled out in a way that the staffs can actually put it together, and it can be less stressful at the restaurant level.
Yeah.
I could not imagine a catering order coming in through Uber Eats, right? That will not make for a good day for anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, surprise.
Guess what you're doing today?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh boy. And do you use it for your own staff as well? Your loyalty program?
Yes, at some of the brands I've worked with, it's been really interesting to be able to leverage it internally. So I'll give you an example, a pizza brand that I've worked with. As one of the benefits, staff members got 20 free pizzas personal pizzas every month. So the way we would deploy that was through the loyalty program. So we had a list of our employees that were on the loyalty program. We had somebody managing that list, but they'd get loaded with their free pizzas every month. And, you know, it just was an easy way to track employee meals or employee benefits, if you will.
That's super cool. I love that.
Yeah.
And for us, all employees always engage in the loyalty program. It's just an added perk to be an employee and to be able to participate in the things that you're trying. But again, it also lets them know that program a little bit better, so they can explain it better to your guests too. So that's definitely helpful.
Yeah, agreed.
Oh, that's a through line for everything, right? If the staff on the ground understand it, know it, and live it, it just flows out from there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to, before we kind of launch into Q&A, I just wanted to see if there's any other final takeaways that you wanted to leave us with from a single platform, or any other thoughts you might have.
Yeah, I would say when you're considering your options, definitely start with what's happening at your POS level. And then I would say the outcome for me was that an integrated platform gives you integrated data, right? And think about how if you have the resources to pull data from a variety of different partners, or if there would be a benefit to having integrated data across email marketing, online ordering, and loyalty. I think that was a key benefit that I maybe didn't understand at the time, was so important.
Yeah, really, when you're looking at a single platform, just go at it with the understanding of what can you and can you not take on, right? So understand what your team's about, understand what you guys can handle, and see if, moving to a single platform, an unexpected benefit for us was we all of a sudden realized we had time to take care of our franchisees more than we ever had. So that was a big move for us. I mean, our corporate office is called the Franchise Support Center, and it's called that for a reason. We need to support our franchisees at the end of the day, and the time that it's opened up, the less management to go to a single platform allows us to do that better today than ever before.
It's great.
I love that. It seems like whenever you automate and improve things, there's always more things to do, and it frees up time. And you say, "Wow, I can get to more of my to-do list. This is great."
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Why does the to-do list never shrink?
Never.
Yeah.
No.
That's a whole nother webinar.
Yeah.
There's so much love to share.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, I think at this point I'm going to hand it back to Greg for Q&A.
All right, great. Yeah, thank you so much to our panel for that great discussion. We are open for Q&A now, so if you have not gotten your questions in yet, please go ahead and do so. So let's start with this first one, and I want to direct it to both Chris and Renae. Chris, we'll start with you, but then would love to have Renae's take as well. And that question is, what compromises did you all have to make in using a single platform versus best of breed vendors?
So it's interesting because it might be a compromise that you're not necessarily getting the Cadillac version of every piece that you're going for, whether it be online ordering or gift card program or loyalty. But that may be something you have to sacrifice. But at the other end, what we've gained in the ability to manage the three different solutions, it far outweighs the sacrifices, right? Because there are companies out there. There's always going to be somebody that can do something better than the other, but that doesn't necessarily mean it'll work, great with your system.
I think that's it. I think you have to look at your specific situation and weigh out the pros and cons. And And yeah, that I like that. The Cadillac version is going to come with a lot of bells and whistles, things that you may be able to leverage in your organization, which that's great. But if you're a smaller to medium organization, a little resource constrained, you have to think through, are you going to, and do you need to fully leverage some of those bells and whistles, or are you better off with this holistic platform approach? I do think it's individual. Some people may answer the question differently than Chris and I have, but I do think kind of weighing out the pros and cons for your specific position or situation is important.
All right, next question. What do you foresee being the next major technological innovation within guest engagement? NFTs, the metaverse, any major tools you see more restaurants leveraging in the near future? Renae, why don't we stick with you for this one?
Yeah, sure. I mean, probably not those things, but we can already see AI, right? Jumping right into helping with guest review and response. I think that's going to continue to accelerate. I do think that, our digital ordering world is just going to expand. People are really sold on the convenience of digital ordering. And I think that will continue to grow. Chris, I don't know if you had any additions.
Yeah, I would say, and it's a hot topic right now, but yeah, it's really going to come down to AI. And it's not necessarily just AI in answering a guest. It's not, chats. It's also the fact that there's AI out there that's helping you with accuracy. Okay, who's making what and how they're making it based on how it's coming into the system. I mean, I could see accuracy being a really strong push with AI here in the very near future, because accuracy is a big thing in the restaurant space.
Yeah, actually, you just reminded me, just kind of stepping back into my marketing world, AI is changing restaurant marketing already today. Last week, I used AI to help me write a RFP for a social agency review. And although I had everything in my head and I had some experience RFPs, having AI write it for me and then me spend 15 minutes personalizing it, it was a huge time saver. And I know there's people using AI to write copy, do creative. So it will upend the marketing world for sure.
All right, Renae, let's stick with you to start with this next question, which is, if a company has an already very established loyalty program, is it possible to make a change to a new platform without losing a significant amount of your loyalty program members?
You know what, I'm going to have to punt on that one a little bit. I don't really have experience coming from a strong, fully functioning email loyalty or online ordering system. For me, every brand that I've worked with, we've stepped up, not back or not down. So I'm going to have to punt on that one.
Fair enough. Chris, are you prepared to field the punt?
Yeah, I am prepared to field the pun. Let's see if I can run it back. Short answer, yes. So we actually had a situation when we made our transition. We had 120,000 loyalty members that we needed to transition. We had absolutely zero problem switching over to Paytronix. So one of the things that we did is we reached out to every one of those loyalty members via email. We told them, thank you for being a loyal customer. We're moving over to a new platform. Here's a free combo on us. Thanks for being such a loyal. We saw no issues in our transition with our existing customers at all. It was a very, very smooth process.
All right, I think we'll call that a touchdown, Chris. And in fact, that looks like it's going to be the end of time for us today. So we'll go ahead and conclude our program there. Many thanks to Paytronix for making this program possible, to our audience for attending, and of course, to our panel for sharing their insight. As I mentioned at the top of the program, a recording of this program will be linked on qsrmagazine.com, or you can use today's login link to view it at any time. Thanks again, and have a great day.